it's a lot harder than it was. So let's go back to when I launched Yoast SEO. This was now 15 years ago almost when I started coding on that. When I started doing SEO, and as you can see, I'm old, we could still look at PageRank and we could buy links and we could say, hey, we've gotten this to a PR8. The existential angst that an entrepreneur needs to some extent, I guess, is lacking.
Hello everyone, my name is Maciej Nowak and welcome to the Osom to Know podcast where we discuss all things related to building great websites. My today's guest is Joost de Valk, maybe best known for building his famous Yoast SEO plugin. Joost and his team have recently launched a new product, and we are taking this as an example to discuss the cold start problem, meaning how do you start marketing a new product category and building from zero to creating that category. We also talk about SEO and how Joost looks at the current SEO game from his over 15 years of experience. We also touch on building versus selling software products. If you don't want to miss new episodes and keep learning more about building great websites, please subscribe to our newsletter at osomstudio.com/newsletter. This is osomstudio.com/newsletter. If you are watching this on YouTube, give us a thumb and subscribe to our channel. This means a world to us. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Joost de Valk.
Hey everyone, it's good to have you here. We're glad you decided to tune in for this episode of the Osom to Know podcast.
Hello Joost, how are you?
I'm very good. Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Let's get straight to the, to questions, and I have a very big question for you. Have you ever been a persona non grata before?
Well, maybe in high school a bit, but I don't even think that's true. I do think some of my teacher maybe disliked me, but no, I don't think I've ever been in this weird position before where you want to actually change a project for the better for everyone, and someone responds like this.
That's I think that is putting you on a in a spotlight, right? Like everyone is looking now at you because of being put in this position.
Yeah, I guess so, and the thing is, I would like for all of us to get along and work together in a way that actually moves us all forward. And this makes that harder. Not impossible, I still think, but harder.
Yeah, that not a constructive approach, would you say?
It would not be the approach I would take.
All right, that's very nicely. Let's maybe move on to other nice topics. I don't want you, to celebrate that.
No, I think the negativity isn't worth a whole lot. I do think that we all still need to get together and move forward in a way that works for everyone, and I still want to do that, and I want to include everyone in that, and everyone I'm talking to and working with wants the same thing. I think we all want to get rid of that negativity and also get rid of the fear that is very palpable in a lot of people, because I can say a lot of these things because I don't have all that much to lose in some ways. So I hope that we'll be able to get away from that and get to more positive things soon.
But okay, but do you think this is possible? Because there is.
Yeah, I still think that's possible. If I didn't think that was possible, I probably wouldn't have started. Well, I wouldn't have gone into this. I went into this quite eyes wide open, knowing that this was one of the risks of what could happen. But but I still think that it's very possible to change this.
Okay. All right. I'm super curious. I think like the whole community is super curious how this will evolve, because the longer the situation with that conflict, like not like with you, but the whole problem with WordPress was like boiling. Now it blew up, and the longer that situation is not resolved, the more we learn about stuff that happened, in the past, or is happening now, or
Yeah, none of it helps anybody. I don't think it's good for our market. I think all of us want stability and then a stable platform that we can all build on. And I also think all of us want for WordPress to move forward. So yeah, I still think that's possible. It is not something that you do in a day, and it is made a bit harder by the fact that people are afraid to speak up publicly. It means that you have to do a bit more in back chambers, which is not really a position that I prefer in many ways. I would like to do this more in public, but it's a lot harder because people don't dare to speak up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think rightly so. If they are very tightly coupled with the organization technology, and their livelihood depends on attending WordCamps, for example, right? So it's like there is, it's a position of power where you can do whatever you want with the contributing members. For okay, not everything you want, but you can make their life extremely more hard, for example.
Yes. Yeah, you can.
Or now we can move to nicer things. So
Yes.
I think you've been very busy recently. Like I see you've been very busy recently building new product. So you can sit still. There is Emilia Capital, but then there is also your a new product you are building
Yes.
for WordPress. Can you tell us a little bit more about the product? Probably you've been asked about this, but in a nutshell, what is it, and why have you decided to build it?
So the product is called Progress Planner. The idea of the product is that it's hard to maintain a website well, and that a lot of people forget both the basic setup tasks and the menial tasks of maintenance. So we needed to figure out a way to make that a bit more fun, and also a way to keep you working on your website. Because what we see happen a lot is that people build a website and then spend a lot of time making it better in the beginning. And as they do that, they start to work less and less on their site, and their site starts to deteriorate. And then 4 years in, they actually need to build a new website because it's also out of date. And we want to sort of prevent that and help people do better. So do better in terms of keeping their plugins up to date and things like that, but also do better in terms of keeping their about page and their contact page up to date and giving them reminders to do that. And it's funny, if you've been in this space as long as I have, then you can come up with long lists of things that people forget and do wrong in their WordPress site, and that if we can tell them and figure out a way to give them nudges to do those things better, everyone has a better website. So that's what Progress Planner is about. It's very much it takes a lot of learnings from Duolingo in terms of gamifying how you do your things, and gives you badges to stay active on your site. And with that, we try to help you build a better website in many ways, which includes SEO, but also a lot of other things, like have you removed all this sample content that WordPress comes with, for instance. If you look on Google and you search for the slug of the sample page that ships with WordPress, you'll see that loads and loads and loads of companies still have that sample page on their website. And there's a whole lot of things like that that would be better if they were removed and fixed.
Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to comment on the fact that it looks like a sparring partner, maybe not a sparring partner, but like a personal trainer who keeps you motivated or tells you what to do to stay in shape, not get better shape, maybe, not as much, but
we'll try to even get you in better shape. I kind of like that analogy. I train with a personal trainer 3 times a week, and I have for the last 9 years, so I know how important that can be. So yeah, no, I do like that analogy, and it is it is a bit like that where it tries to be that buddy that you help, and that helps you stay on touch of things. Because let's be honest, most people that have a website are not like you or me. They don't want to maintain a website. The website is a thing that they need to do on the side of all their other stuff. So a bit of reminding every week that they need maybe should you do 1 or 2 small things on their site to keep it going well, is probably very welcome.
And since this is a new product, how do you find the managing the cold start problem? Because you have to launch a new product. How do you go about this?
It's hard. And it's a lot harder than it was. So let's go back to when I launched Yoast SEO. This was now 15 years ago almost when I started coding on that. At that point in time, there were a lot less plugins. The market was a lot less crowded, but also the types of users were a lot more users that looked like me. That were relatively technical, could install a plugin themselves, figure out what to do, etc. So Yoast SEO was built very much with people like that in mind. And over time, we slowly progressed that. As my wife, Marika, came into the company more, and we started building more for what I'd now call average users. And now you start a new WordPress site and you're thrown into a thing, and it's actually hard. There's 50,000 plugins out there, and I mean, like 12,000 of them are maintained, but you can't even really diagnose very well without knowing what you're doing, which ones are well maintained and which ones are not. So standing out in that market is a lot harder. And with Yoast SEO, we built an SEO plugin, which people already had an idea of what that concept was. They were searching for something that would help them with SEO, and they knew that. And with Progress Planner, we've got one more problem, which is that people don't even know that they need this solution. So the cold start becomes a bit harder. So you need to talk about the topics that they run into, and then work from there to what your solution to that is, which is, it's a bit more work. It takes a bit more time. Luckily, we have that time, and we can afford to not make much money on this for a while, and still build it with the team, which I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, that's super interesting because this product being new and the category is not very, it's a new category, I would say, right? So not only you have to launch a product, but also create the category and educate the consumers about the category. And that's a tough, I would say, category, because the gains from the plugins, this solution, are not obvious. It's like your website will be less bad if you do this, right? So it won't deteriorate. You will be in shape. Would you say I'm somehow right, or totally wrong?
No, I think you're right. I think it is a bit of a harder marketing story. At the same time, I think it's very worth it. So one of my colleagues at Progress Planner, John O'Alderson, he was with us at Yoast before too. We've been working together for a long time. He just did this awesome presentation a while ago in which he was talking about making your website 1% better every day and what the compound effects of what that would be. And I don't think many people realize what the effect is of just doing a little every day. It's just
On everything, right?
On everything, and it really improves everything, which is how Duolingo helps you learn a language. It's how we try to help you make your website slightly better. And the funny thing is that it's not as popular a story, I think, as installing an SEO plugin and then thinking magically you will start ranking better, which is not how it works. But for some reason, a lot of people thought that was how it works. And I think that what we're trying to do now is going beyond that and actually getting people to put in the work on their website that they need to put in to have a good website. Especially in an age of AI where creating content is 2 seconds work for most things. And none of that stands out anymore. So you have to stand out by actually providing the right information at the right time, being genuinely helpful and answering the questions that your visitors have. And that also means having a website that's not breaking and not annoying. We recently ran our first challenge, which we run for our pro customers, where we did a broken links challenge. And on all of our own websites, literally my website, Yoast.blog, Jono's website, Marika's website, we had broken links. And we think we're good at this stuff, right? We're supposed to be SEO experts, but we didn't have 1 or 2 broken links. We all had in the dozens because these things happen and because nobody cleans them up. But cleaning them up actually does make things better. So I think that is what we're trying to tell everyone. Like, okay, there's a lot of these things, and we'll guide you through them year by year on like which things on your website can you fix and should you fix. Just to have a better website overall all the time. And yes, that's a bit of work. I used to say this about SEO. SEO stands not for search engine optimization, which is a weird term anyway, if you think about it, because you're not optimizing the search engine, but for seriously effortful optimization. It's a lot of work to do this well. It's a lot of work to build a good website. But if you're not willing to put in that work, then why is the website there in the first place?
Very good question. Do we need websites these days when you have so many, like the individuals can become a brand and they can distribute their products?
I think you still need a website, but you need to think about why it exists and what it is about. So if you are a company, then your website should be the best source to learn about your company. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to do it anywhere else. Like if you're a bakery, then yes, I want you to have a website and give me the basic things that I want to know about your bakery from your website. But I also want you to update Google Maps and make sure that your opening hours are correct, because otherwise I'll be in front of a locked door, and I hate doing that. So yes, you need a website. I don't necessarily think that you need to put out 1,000 pieces of content a year that are not good. I would much rather have you write a couple of good pieces of content that actually help people or that actually answer questions that people have. And I one of the things that we also tell you is to go through your old posts and update them, which is like things that on a news site maybe don't make them the most sense, but on many other types of sites, it makes sense to go back into your how-to articles and figure out if they're still correct. Because otherwise someone ends up in your how-to article from 2015 and goes like, this is not correct anymore, and goes back to the search results.
For tools, especially, like if you have if you are SaaS and the description isn't accurate because the interface has changed, like it's a particular use case where you have a SaaS website with a lot of how-tos, right? Or guides how to do something, and then the interface differ from your experience. You're stuck because you were looking for help, so you don't know how to do this, and then you have the added complication of matching the UI from the guide to what you are using.
Yeah, and I think it goes for SaaS tools, but for pretty much anyone who changes their software or their things that they have to update their sites. As a developer myself, one of the things that annoys me most is if people have changed their interfaces in their code and not actually changed their developer documentation. There's a whole lot of these things that happen. People change opening hours every day. Like literally every store in the world changes opening hours, and almost every store in the world forgets to update their opening hours in Google Maps in the first week. And then someone complains about it and they go and do it. I think that goes for a lot of these things. The amount of times that I filled out a contact form for the contact form not to work, or the contact details on a page not to be correct. These are pretty simple things to keep correct and to keep working, but you have to be reminded of them. You have to actually check them every once in a while because stuff breaks over time. I think broken links are probably the best example of that. We want links to be permalinks and to be existent on the web forever, but they're not. On Marika's site, the thing that actually broke, she has like 7 scientific publications, and the links that broke were the links to her scientific publications. And it drives me absolutely mad, but even those universities just changed the links.
Mm-hmm. And you had to find out what are the new links and update them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're still all online. It's not like it's impossible to find them, but why would people who visit your website take that trouble? Yeah, I think you have to be realistic and say, okay, if we want that sort of thing to, if we want people to read that and find that interesting and want to respond to that or do things based on that, then it has to be of good quality.
Mm-hmm. Right. And can we get back a little bit to starting that product? It's so easy now to build something, and there, like, Twitter is literally littered with people building something in 3, 4, 5 hours. Obviously, how it works is a different story, but you can do something with a couple of prompts. The promise is there. Now, do you think this is the case, that you can build something so easily but sell it so much harder than before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do think that the two are related. Developing has become so much faster. I literally this morning before we started recording, I had an idea last night about how to refactor some of the code in our plugin. It took me 30 minutes to do an entire refactor in our plugin to fix all sorts of issues, because doing that in Cursor just is so much easier than it used to be in the past.
Yeah,
I'm literally tabbing through changes and just doing the first one, and then it understands what I want to do, and it's like tab, 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 and it just does it everywhere. And building new stuff is super easy too. So your product actually has to provide value, and I think that a part of that value in the past used to be in automating things. And now it has to be automating things and providing knowledge on top of that, or actually adding value on top of the automation, which is a bit harder. So you need to actually be capable of doing something and doing it well to make money on the web. I think it does make the whole maker industry online a bit harder for a lot of people, because you have to dive deep on a topic and know automation, and then you can still provide real value. And I also think that you can still still make real good money from it. But just looking for a niche that you don't know anything about, and then starting to build, will probably not result in the best results anymore, because someone in that niche who is not a developer but is smart and can use a bit of AI can develop, and they have all the knowledge that they need to actually do something meaningful.
You mentioned that the expertise is so much more valuable because you can catch up with decoding so much easier. I'm thinking about the distribution. There's that saying that good product will prevail, but I am not so sure if not the best distribution. That's why people go to TikTok, for example, to launch their apps and so on, because there are hundreds of similar apps, but you win with the distribution. But that's a question. I'm that's my hand.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was this thought in the early days of the web: if you build it, they will come. Because, well, the web was slightly different. It was not as crowded, and it was relatively easy to get picked up as something that was new and meaningful. Now, when you build something, there's very often like 15 competitors immediately for what you're doing. So you have to actually stand out by doing it better. And I think it was always about distribution and about reach. A lot of it was about talking to more people than just your inner circle. So as much as I love WordCamps, for instance, I think we got more traction with Yoast from the fact that I was speaking on SEO conferences.
Where are your customers? Because these people will decide on the spend on given product that will help their work.
Exactly, I was actually podcasting way back in the day. I started the WordPress podcast on Webmaster Radio in 2009, and that was on Webmaster Radio was an SEO and digital marketing podcasting network, and people heard about WordPress for the first time on the podcast as well, and started using it because it was good for SEO. And I think that a lot of what we do in the WordPress world in the last years has been watching internally, and we need to look out a bit more and need to figure out, like, hey, when we're building products, who are we talking to and how are we reaching those people? Because I do think that the WordPress community that we see as the WordPress community, the people attending the WordCamps, is only a tiny sliver of the actual WordPress community. And you reach those other people in different ways. And that's become harder simply because there are many more products competing for the same attention.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting what you said about broader community that is not present on the WordCamps. But would you say these are still developers, agency people and so on, who are just not present on that conference? Or would you say the group is much broader because you would include, for example, marketing people who are the consumers, who are using WordPress, who build their business websites on top of WordPress, and by definition this way, end users, right? So and they
I think all of them go to WordCamps, so marketers, end users, etc. It's just that the people that go to WordCamps are a tiny percentage of the overall number of users of WordPress, which is probably always going to be true, right? there's no chance in hell that we're going to have a 250,000 people WordCamp Europe at any point in time. It's impossible. These things don't work like that, so it's fine. It's just that you have to realize that the tiny community that we see there, which isn't tiny when it's thousands of people, it's still a big group of people, but it's still a relatively small group of people compared to the overall usage of WordPress. And a lot of those people we're not reaching through talking at a WordCamp. We would probably reach them better when we speak somewhere else. So in the past, for us, that used to be affiliate and SEO conferences where we reached a lot of the people that started installing Yoast SEO in the beginning. And now, well, we have to think about that again and have to look at new avenues of doing that. So one of the things that some companies have done quite successfully is just talking to hosts. They get the new customers in. They can actually promote new things to their customers, and if it's beneficial to them. So it's definitely something that we are talking about. And there you have to look at like where does the power actually lie? Where does the reach actually exist? Where can you find those people? And in the past, that also used to be Twitter, for instance. But that's also a lot harder because we've spread out across TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, and all these different networks. So there's no longer one or two networks where you can reach everyone easily. And also there, it's a lot more crowded. So there's a lot more. Yeah.
You haven't mentioned LinkedIn, and is by omission or by coincidence or?
No, I actually do use LinkedIn a lot. I probably use LinkedIn more than the other networks. I hate it when people use LinkedIn to promote their product because I do think that's more of a business relations network than it is. But I do think that LinkedIn is very useful. But I also think that this is exactly the problem, right? So LinkedIn, X, or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it, Blue Sky, TikTok, Facebook for if you're targeting older people, like all these things still exist, but they're harder to get your message across on.
So I'm also curious about what you mentioned, that you have time, you have fun building. Don't get this question like aggressive or intrusive, but could it be like a counterproductive approach maybe, where you think you have time and fun and not push for sales? I don't know what's your strategy, but if you maybe drag or not push
it is definitely a problem. Yeah,
Okay.
I will say that if you need to make money faster, you'll probably get to some better results. So there's the existential angst that an entrepreneur needs to some extent, I guess, is lacking. I do think that it took us a while, but we are now at the point where we are replacing that existential angst with actual like being really, really happy about what we're building and being really enthusiastic about the product. But the funny thing is, to a large degree, making money has not been my driving motivation for quite some time anymore. I just want to build a better web, and I think that we can help in that. And that sounds really big, right? But it is like when you've built software like Yoast, where like 6 to 8% of the web is using your software, you actually start having a real impact on how the web works and what you can do. And I think we can do that again. And I think we can once again help people build better websites. And whether we make tons of money in that process is not really the most interesting thing to me.
Okay. You mentioned, I also want to touch up on the SEO part. I can't just not do this. And I'm curious, with your perspective, starting so early in the SEO, any kind of SEO work, with this, I'm leading to the space for SEO is changing as well as fast, probably, as the tools are and the technology is changing. So I'm curious, what's your take, looking on the SEO from that helicopter view, from that with that huge perspective you have.
Because of AI, there's a ton of content coming on the web that looks relatively okay, even when it's not real substance to it. It looks like you've really spent a long time writing something. I think that reasonably good content is no longer good enough. You actually have to stand out. And at the same time, for a lot of websites, it really means you just have to provide the value that people are looking for. So if you are a architect, then what you should be talking about is who you are, what makes you different in your projects, and show some of your projects, because that's what people want to know when they're looking for an architect. And for an SEO, that is weird, right? Because we used to have like all these content strategies where we'd create tons of content to get people to rank higher. That's no longer a way in which to differentiate yourself, because everybody can do that. And in a lot of topics, I think we can just say to some degree that the web is full. Like, there's enough bullshit content about a whole lot of topics. So what you need to figure out is what makes you different and what makes it so that search engines and AI tools will actually talk about you. And that is, funnily enough, back to old school marketing. What makes you stand out? Why are you important? Branding becomes so much more important again. And it's like you are on the market and you're walking around on a very large market. Which stalls do you go to? What makes that difference? It's no different with this. And there's no longer any cheap hacks. I think that a lot of people that learned SEO in the last decade learned SEO by looking at a whole lot of tools, like the Ahrefs, the Mozes, etc. of this world. And while those tools can be helpful in some ways, they won't help you provide an actual marketing strategy. And funnily enough, I have not changed my SEO tactics all that much over the last 15 years because I've always been very holistic about these things. I think that good SEO should be an integration of good content, good branding, good PR, and these things should work together. And I think that becomes even more important now, because if you want to show up in an AI overview, then people will need to know about your brand. You'll need to actually have people remember you. So all of it, well, basically comes back to the same thing. At the same time, building a technically solid website is cheaper and easier than it ever was, but most people still fail at it. So I do still think that it takes that part of building a website is actually important. And that for a lot of things, especially if you have larger websites, technical SEO is actually still a very important expertise, because you have to talk to people about why is this not getting crawled? Why do you have these errors? What is happening here? You have to be able to diagnose that. And funnily enough, I don't think a whole lot of the people that have done SEO in the last decade actually know how to fix a lot of these issues.
Mm-hmm. How about stuff that is like, backlinks, domain authority, um, things like this? Where is it? Is it still relevant to, I don't know, gather links, pointing to your website, or it's like 10% or 5%?
I don't think you can talk about it in that sense. It depends very much on who you are, what you do. There's no one size fits all rule. I think that backlinks are, if you do it well, backlinks are the result of people talking about you, which is very needed. So I'm not going to say that you don't need links. Of course you need links. But you shouldn't be chasing the links. You should be chasing the fact that people are talking about you and linking to you. And whether they actually link to you or just talk about your brand is becoming less and less relevant, I think. I think that the bigger search engines and all AIs are smart enough to combine these things just if they recognize your name and the context, and they will know what is being talked about most of the time. That does mean that you have to have a brand that is recognizable as such. But so I think that domain authority and all those terms don't really mean anything. And at the same time, they are a quantification of something that is very real, which is people talking about your brand, people searching for your brand, people linking to you because they thought you were cool or because they thought you were awful. And I think that's always been important. And in the past, when I started doing SEO, and as you can see, I'm old. We could still look at PageRank, and we could buy links, and we could say, "Hey, we've gotten this to a PR8." And even then, you could rank for a whole lot of things, but if the traffic wasn't relevant to you, then it didn't help you much.
Mm-hmm. That's super interesting, because let's assume you are building a new website. You are starting a business. You created your website for your product, and it has a new domain. It has your reputation. Again, a cold start problem, not for a product but for a website. What can you do about this? You start from zero, right?
Well, do so. Yeah, you start from zero. So you do something meaningful. You build a website. You do. You come up with the content that needs to be on there because you probably built that website for something. You built it because you have something to say or something to sell, and then you do that bit really well. And you do that not just on your own website, but on all these outposts out there, and you talk about it, and you link people back to what you're doing. And you provide them with real value. It's no different than it has been to launch a product in the last 200 years in many ways. It's just now the market is a bit more crowded. And so in the beginning, there were 50 stalls, and now there are 20,000. And you have to stand out. And so you have to be creative about your marketing. And I think that is in many ways what you have to be in many of the things that we do now, that AI helps us do all the menial tasks very quickly. The creativity is what's becoming really important again.
Mm-hmm. I saw a meme a couple of days ago. There is a old grandfather with his grandson, and he's on sitting on his lap, and the grandfather is saying, "Oh, but no, Johnny, don't use these apps. Take these apps that your grandfather coded with real hands, not the stuff you have now, all code generated and stuff like." I can't convey how funny was it for me, but it was spot on that some stuff is being replaced by some maybe jobs or tasks, menial tasks, but it's being replaced like by AI, and this at one hand eradicates a lot of different jobs, at the other hand provides space for faster speed. It allows you to run at faster pace, so a lot of more stuff is going to happen. But with that, I wanted to refer to what you said, that the creativity is again becoming key. I think we had a short period where everyone was just blinded by what can be done with ChatGPT 3, I think, which would write you a song, and then everyone was, me included, so hyped about that funny song about WordPress or SEO or whatever. You still can do whatever you want, but people tend to learn the style of AI, and the creativity is not so present, I would say. And then it's back to what you can do different than what will get recycled through AI tool. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that standing out in this thing is harder. We also start getting better to a degree about recognizing AI images, and not all of them, but there's definitely styles that you recognize as, hey, this has been built by AI, which also means that it's not that good yet. But I mean, what is very fundamental about how AI works is that it might put something that it has found in one part of the web and apply it to something else. So there might be some creativity in how it applies things it has seen somewhere on something new. But actual creativity is not something that we can expect from AI yet. And I think that is that people underestimate what that means. That actually being able to think about something coherently and over a longer period of time is exactly what gives us an advantage, and what allows us to do a lot of things. And at the same time, AI can make us much more productive. So I love it, but I don't think it should be used for everything. And in general, using it for writing leads to pretty bad results for a lot of different things. And yeah, I just feel that is not really changing. It's not AI is not becoming more creative in the new things I've seen. It's getting better at answering questions and thinking about things that have already been done. But I think that is for real marketing, you still need to have like creative thoughts and a creative thought process.
I'm curious, what do you expect from, let's say, near future in terms of, like, maybe think of it as predictions. What can you expect to get from all of that race? Do you have any thoughts, predictions, expectations towards short period of time and maybe a little bit longer?
I do think AI will get much better. I think in the relatively short term, we'll probably run into a limit of how much power they can get into a data center, so to calculate larger models. until we figure out how to split the whole calculation of a new model across different data centers. So I think they will get better. I will probably also hit a wall at some point, and then it might suddenly take like 2 or 3 years to get across that wall again, because we need to do something else. This will progress, and it will progress fast, because I think everyone realizes the power in this. And it will probably start doing more and more of those menial tasks that we think about. And over time, it might even take more tasks than we thought. I think one of the things that has come out of this, which I think is hilarious to a degree, is that we carpenters and electricians and all those people, they are not being replaced by AI anytime soon. One of the biggest limits on how fast we can grow AI is how fast we can build data centers, and it's not because we can't get the chips. The biggest problem is that we can't get the people to actually put up the data centers themselves.
I thought that these were the chips.
No, well, the chips are part of a problem, but the bigger problem is actually building the data centers and getting the power into those data centers. And I just look at that and go like, okay, it's, in a way, it's funny. And I think developers were like the most sought after type of person for a while, and that will decrease a bit because we will be able to do more work with less developers. And we'll start to value other work more again, until we figure out a way to automate more of that too. I think that it's basically a constant change. I do think that this is very different, yet very similar to an industrial revolution, where suddenly how we do things changed a lot. And it makes sense to study that history and look at what happened then. And well, it led to quite a bit of unrest, but it also led to much higher prosperity. And I think this will do that too.
And building on top of that, that the fact that you can build so much easier, do you think that we might be facing a future, and this is not in a bad context, but do you think that we might be facing a future where people will craft their own applications for their particular use cases, the same way as people are cooking food, for the dinner right now? Your grandmother has this style of, soup. You might have different style of the soup, but it's the soup, but it tastes different. It is the same soup. Instead of buying a frozen pizza, for example, mass produced, like buying a SaaS service that is mass for a mass customer, fit for all.
Yeah, I think so. I think we already see this to some degree. It's much easier again to build the simple tools you need to do specific things in your company yourself. And now that's just restricted to the developers and the people that that know how to do that quickly. But I think that will become more widespread. And I do also think that open source has a very important role to play in that, because it actually does allow for more of that faster. So yes, I do think that people will start making things their own more, and composability, or however you want to call that, is something that people will look for. Like, can I mold this to my specific needs well? And I think that's fine. It means that you get to match your software to how you work a bit better, instead of having software force you into a certain way of working.
Yoast, thank you very much for jumping to our podcast together. Thank you very much for all of the answers, and it was a pleasure to have a chat with you.
Likewise, and I hope to do it again at some point, and then find ourselves in better connections between the two of us.
Certainly. And by the way, we can then review what happened during that that period. What which of your, let's say, predictions materialized.
We'll see. I hope that I'll be very right, but I probably won't be.
We never know. All right. Thank you very much and take care.
If you like what you've just heard, don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. On the other hand, if you've got a question we haven't answered yet, feel free to reach out to us directly. Just go to osomstudio.com/contact. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode of the Awesome to Know podcast.